That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. We're from UGAsports.com. Also, subscribe to it. Check out this YouTube channel. I'm playing a little background music here to drown out some of the crickets from my backyard. Shout out to David Wright and Dog Vent for making this happen. We're continuing our top returning Bulldog series based off of PFF grades. It's one of our off-season projects. Once the season starts, you'll be able to catch us on Film Don't Lie every weekend after the game. We break down what we saw from Georgia's game from kind of a video perspective, a coaching perspective. It's just a good way to kind of let you see maybe some things you didn't see from star players or whatnot. Let's fade that music out here because that guitar got in my head a little bit. So that was not a fade. That was just a cut off. So we're continuing our series here. We say this at the beginning of each of these. If you go back on our YouTube channel and see, this is not a ranking of our favorite Georgia players or our opinion of who are the most impactful Georgia players. This is Pro Football Focus doing what it does, grading every single play, and then over the course of a season, taking those plays, combining it together, and putting it through the algorithms and formulas that they have and coming up with the grade of what that player was. Now, I say that because in this particular feature that we're doing this episode, which we are up to number 8 in this series, it is really important for you to understand this is a bit of a projection here. This is not a big sample size. And Brent, sample size is something we say a lot in this series. It's very meaningful in this case. It's saying that this particular guy, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, did really well when he played. Just didn't play a whole lot.
Yep. And he played 103 snaps. I think there were only four games where he had over double-digit snaps, and they were obviously all blowout games. I think right around 76% of his snaps were in the fourth quarter. But his grade was what it was, and he actually played really well when he did play. And that's in the sample size you mentioned is important because we look at someone like Kelee Ringo. We know Kelee is a top 10 talent, NFL draft level talent, but his grade wasn't high. He had some penalties and things that he did, but he had played almost 800 snaps. Totally different world that we're talking about. But this still, when we look at it from a rank order perspective, he's up there, Dumas-Johnson, and because he played really well when he played in the games that he got a chance to get on the field.
Class of 2021 inside linebacker came in, according to Rivals, at 6'2", 225 pounds from St. Francis in Baltimore, Maryland. You reminded me that he had a little bit of celebrity shine with the HBO series. Is that right?
Well, so I don't know how much. I don't remember how much he was because I think he was a junior. The school, because I think it was the class before him that got like Chris Braswell. That's it. That Alabama that got a lot of play on that series. Blake Corum that's at Michigan got a lot of play on that series. But it's a phenomenal look into a powerhouse, small school that's a powerhouse high school football program. If you ever go back and watch it, but for Georgia's sake, they got a really good player out of that school.
A lot of good teams offered him. You see the Auburns and Floridas, Kentucky's obviously a good program. Michigan. Some of the big dogs didn't go down this road. So that doesn't always mean they wouldn't want him. I'd say Alabama would definitely take him for its roster, but for whatever reason, the recruiting not listed here as someone that was offered. What I will say, as we pull up his Georgia Dogs profile to see what they have him listed at there, is that one reason I think that his projection and hype is so increased right now. He's listed at 6'1", 235 pounds. That projection is there because this is a position of need at inside linebacker. If nothing else, losing Dean and Tyndall and Quay Walker to the NFL, you got to fill it with a body, and he's right there in the running to be a starter for Georgia. And in that role in the defense, that means you can be a superstar. And maybe in another season after this, maybe he's 2 years away from NFL draft time.
I mean, you look at the last 3 years of linebacker play that Georgia's had. Nakobe obviously is the constant in that he played those 3 years. But you basically have 3 guys. You have 3 guys, 2 of which play the majority of the snaps, and a third who plays a healthy amount. Like last year, Nakobe and Quay were over 600 snaps. Tyndall was almost 500 snaps. In 20, Nakobe a little over 500 snaps. Quay and Monty Rice over 300 snaps. The previous year, Monty Rice, Tay Crowder, and then Nakobe come in there as well. So if you're one of those 2 guys, you're going to be on the field a lot. And he is very much in position to be one of those two guys. And based upon also that pass history, if you notice about, let's see, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names that I mentioned right there, all 5 were drafted and all 5 are in the NFL. So being in those spots, playing for Glenn Schumann,
it's enviable.
It usually leads to success. So he's first up in the leader. I think he's very much, when you think about stylistically, he's very Monty Rice-esque, I think, from a stylistic standpoint, and the position that he would play in Georgia's defense.
He did play in 14 of Georgia's 15 games, did some special teams work as well. So let me just be honest about this film that we're watching here. This was fourth quarter blowouts. This was garbage time. This is a run the clock. This is let's not get injured. He didn't necessarily treat it that way. He really did pop off the tape, I think, of showing his speed and then his pursuit ability.
Yeah, and he made plays. Like you could see that he was someone who coming into the game was very much hey, I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to go make plays. I'm not going to just be there and be the guy who gets in on the pile, that kind of thing. I'm going to go and sort of announce my presence and who I am, what I'm about.
He's number 10 here, coming from kind of the left inside, and we kind of know what happened here. Made a play on the edge, took it the house.
Might be the easiest touchdown he scored in his life, but still, yet great read, great play. Sees what's going on, reads the play, has to avoid. You can't really see it, but he has to avoid the receivers. Sort of in cutting route, little hitch, rub type route, and then goes and makes a play on the ball and scores. When you get gifted those things, you got to be able to do it. You can't be the guy who drops that pass and doesn't get it, but made that play, and that was kind of the first that you're like, oh, okay.
In terms of this series too, DumasJohnson, Jazz, Chambliss. I'm just saying.
That's Norton there.
Oh, Norton, excuse me. Yeah.
Chambliss at the top of the screen, and you got in terms of PT, you also got Warren Brinson on this play, who made a little bit of play for
I'm
there.
just saying, if you were kind of projecting ahead to the future, I think those are two guys to watch.
Yes, I would agree.
Too. I'm not like trying to. I think
he'll be a rotational guy again.
Yeah.
And here's playing against the run, making plays, reading, being physical. Like I think what is it they call him? Pop? Isn't that his nickname?
Yep.
You can definitely tell he's not afraid to do that. He will. There's one play on the goal line that he had against Missouri. Not necessarily the one we're going to look at in the clips, but he had to take on the left guard and absolutely stoned Missouri's left guard on the goal line, and then made the tackle. But he's definitely, you see him, and he's not someone who's afraid of contact.
This is garbage time against Florida, which is a sacred phrase for Georgia fans.
Always an enjoyable position to be in Jacksonville when you're looking around. And here, it's just watching the quarterback's eyes and making a play on the football, not just just being not athletic enough or not seeing what's going on or losing, just losing track of what's going on in the backfield, but keeping your eyes on the backfield, getting into your zone, and then making a play.
I think it's a beautiful sight when you see an inside linebacker play zone coverage well. Nakobe Dean did really good with it, because what you can do is obviously cover when you can, but then when you recognize that you need to hurry up and pursue, whether it's to the flat or if you see the ball coming your way, it's all about instinct. And I think, at least from what we've seen, and I think it's why he's rated here according to Pro Football Focus, Dumas-Johnson has really good football instincts. He seems like he knows what he's doing when he's out there.
And that's one of those positions where would you want everyone to be, 4 or 5 guys that, like the explosive athletes that Tyndall was, and even possibly, even Quay Walker? Yes, but also those instincts, oftentimes you're 2 steps ahead of everyone. And if you have those, that's how you become that and overcome maybe some athletic deficiencies, but still yet be great on the football field. Now, granted, he doesn't have many in terms of the athletic deficiency, but it's one where you can definitely see that the mental side of the game is one that is not necessarily a minus for him. By the way, 4 times he was in coverage, didn't allow a catch, didn't allow a single catch in 4 times.
Garbage time against Georgia Tech, which I also call the second quarter. I'm just joking. This was still the 4th quarter, but yeah, that's how that rivalry goes. Assuming it continues and persists, who knows with college football. You see him. We'll rewind to the beginning here, but you see him kind of step up along the edge here, and even draw the attention of like, hey, you see that, right? You see him? Yeah. I got him.
Maybe
about that.
Well, and the thing you look at, it just, by the way, he does a phenomenal job of running through. Like you don't run through the middle of these guys. You pick a side and then just explode through them. Right? He picked a side, explodes, and then finishes on the QB. And what did we see? What did we see last year with specifically Tyndall and Dayne? That you got to be able to blitz. Like the Georgia, this is another sort of simulated pressure with zone pressure look, simulated pressure look, whatever you want to call it, but with Nolan Smith at the bottom of the screen dropping off in the coverage, creating some confusion along the offensive line. That's how Georgia doesn't just line up and say, all right, edge guy, go beat the tackle any way you want, and we're going to do it. No, they line up and say, all right, we're going to cover all the gaps and make sure that we are sound everywhere while also going and being aggressive and trying to get after the quarterback. And he does that.
I understand your comp of Monty Rice, but like in recent Georgia inside linebackers, this particular play, I'm not saying all of them, like this looks like Quay Walker to me. I know he's not as big, but I'm
saying the size,
yeah. In terms of the pursuit, the speed, the recognition, like Quay Walker can make this play.
You think about him compared to say Nakobe. He's probably a couple inches taller and 10 pounds ish bigger.
Yeah.
So that's there. 8 pass rush snaps, 2 sacks. So he was productive in a little bit of time. He got after it. This is one here where this is the play before the one I was talking about just a moment ago. But look, it's fight. Like look at this is the goal line. This is trying to preserve and score against the end of the game against Missouri. And granted, doesn't necessarily make the play, but great fight.
Yeah, he sneaks into the backfield, causes disruption. Let's kind of reset what happened here. Georgia clearly going to win the game. It was toward the end. Georgia had not given up a touchdown on defense to this point in the season. Obviously, Eli Drinkwitz wanted to be the team that did that because that meant something to him, I suppose. And it was after this, I believe, that Missouri called 2 timeouts to preserve the clock and get more stabs at it. Or maybe this is in the middle of it. I forget the exact sequence. But Georgia's defense, even though mostly reserves out here, kind of, wanted to show a little pride and say, you don't score on us, even if our, team 1 guys, our A team is over on the sideline. And Dumas-Johnson does a really good job of like timing this snap, sneaking in here and disrupting the backfield because it stalls out the play. And then other guys can make something happen.
Yep. It's one of those oftentimes you don't make the play, but you make the play. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing for me is like, especially watching it full speed, you see the fight and the want to and the, hey, I'm going to do everything that I think he even crawled a little bit trying to make the play on the QB. And like I said, the next play, absolute stones the left guard, sheds, makes the play in the hole. Just very impressive play from him there. And hey, he's one of the guys, and he's going to probably be on the field, snap one in that, captain of the defense, Nakobe-esque role against Oregon.
And he's going to become a team leader pretty quickly because when you start looking at the other guys playing that spot, it's a very young position for Georgia. You start if you look at secondary, there's a couple older guys back there, the Smiths and the Pooles. Inside linebacker, that's a young group. So Pop is going to be a Pop pretty quickly in terms of just experience in that room. And I think that he's got a lot of potential. But that's where I think he is right now. Is he going to be a superstar in this defense? I think he could be. I think that we have no idea. We need to see him play the best competition more frequently. The sky's the limit for him. He's got all the tools he needs, and what he showed, it was great. We just haven't seen enough of it.
No, and it's also when we think about what has Georgia done over the past few seasons, really over the past few seasons with roster management and bringing certain players in via the transfer portal if kind of need be. And from an experience standpoint, this maybe was one area where you thought, maybe if there's somebody out there, well, what did the fact that they didn't bring anybody in tell you? one, that they didn't think anybody out there could help them, but two, they probably also liked the blend of talent with Dumas-Johnson, Sorey, Munden, Jalen Walker, the true freshman, some other that possibly were in that mix. Those guys they're going to get their reps because we just went through the snap counts. It's 3 main guys that play a ton of snaps. Is that more this year? I don't know. We'll see, but I think he's definitely going to be one that starts.
I think you mentioned the 4 guys that are most in the mix there at this point because we've heard that about Jalen Walker as a true freshman. My suspicion is that Dumas-Johnson and Munden will probably get the start. But you saw Georgia play 3 inside linebackers a lot. There's a lot of versatility in its defense of what it can do. Like you saw Walker and Dayne and Tyndall out there together, especially once you
towards
get
the end of the season
red zone and toward the end of the season as well. Will they continue to do that? I guess some of that depends on the versatility of defensive back and star. Georgia, because of injuries, was trying to figure that situation out. And so I think they realized, well, let's just throw all the inside linebackers out there because they're obviously NFL agreed, the most physical, versatile players on the team. And so Georgia's defense kind of went that way. But it's got options, and that's the key here. Dumas-Johnson helps make that possible. All right, so we are through, we have 7 left on our list. We are approaching the top 5 here of our top returning Georgia Bulldogs based off of PFF grades. And so we'll be back on our YouTube channel next week to get number 7 and number 6 for Brent Rollins. I'm Dane Young. Thanks for watching. We will see you for that.